Good morning, Bears. What is happening today? It is so good to be back with you this morning. Yeah, I put a little lead line into that for the heck of it. Why not? That was fun. I was noodling around on my Git fiddle here. And as I ought to. Because, as you've learned from the title, hey, there you are, good morning. It is, it is getting a little rough around here. I think some of the rest of you might be sharing in the displeasure that I have. Some other state governments have gone very heavily blue, and it's not a real shock for Illinois. That's kind of what you expect around here, sadly. Which honestly means we need to get off our butts and work harder. That's interesting. I'd been thinking about this for some time. Minnesota, yeah, that's how it is here, man. I think maybe some of what's happening here bleeds over to you guys. Good morning, Liberty Snake. Glad to see you. We got Dom Tough up in here. We got Jay Wren. Got David Analog Bear train you. There's Glampin' Bear. Let's see here. Kodiak's up in here. That's a good thing. You want to have a Kodiak on your side. I think generally that's that and a Jew who can control the weather. I don't see him, but I'm sure that one of those would be good. Robot Bear. Robot Bear is usually a good guy to have around. I'm a fan. Cabby number 1. Good morning. Glad you could join us. It's always good to see new faces in here. Cabby, Sergeant Peterson's here. Controversy Bear, how you doing? Cabby number 1, how'd you find out about us? I'm always glad to see new faces pop up into the stream, so it's cool. Or are you an old face that's just under a new name? Because that happens too. Yeah. Mr. Nicktown, that's a great perspective on that. Very cool, Cabby. I'm glad you joined us. It's always good to... Well, Kodiak's cool like that. Kodiak does get people around here. Thanks, Kodiak. I appreciate that. Hang on. I'm trying to... the chat keeps moving. I'm trying to grab a hold... Oh, you know what? It's my mouse. I don't use a mouse on this computer. I use the little trackpad that comes with the laptop. But my USB ports are at a premium, so I don't plug in a whole lot of other stuff. I've got the soundboard plugged in here, so yep. Let's see here. So welcome to Wrench Life there, Cabby number 1. Glad you're squared away. Just just trying to make that right from the start a good setup. Always good to have legit bears join the stream. The blues. Those Illinois blues. Those not gay Dave Rubin blues. Yeah, I'm not even trying there. I'm just having fun. I'm just reading chats. Bluegrass, Roy Bear. Yeah, that's sadly not my expertise in guitar. I don't have any bluegrass chops whatsoever, sadly. Guitar is not my expertise. Guitar I do once in a grand while because I teach it. I'm familiar with some of the fundamentals, and I can make it sound pretty every now and then. In a D chord, maybe in an A chord, if I play it properly. One of my favorite musicians of all time, a guy named Victor Wooten. He would... oh, you're lurking? Cool, Dom. Yeah, Victor Wooten, famous bass player. Hey, Bisky. Bisky's up in here, too. Yeah, Victor would say, you're only ever half a step away from the right note. You could be in the right key that you're playing the song in. If you just, like, play it like it's a bluesy thing there, like a moment, like, yeah, I kind of slid right up. I didn't mean to stop at all for any length of time on that 4th fret on my high E string, but I did, and that was an A flat, and I wanted the A, but I tricked you. I slid it right up. Sometimes you got to do it, but yeah, we're not always perfect. Some musicians are amazingly stellar, and you don't see them make mistakes. And that's because they're pros. They're true pros. I'm a wannabe pro at times. But some of these guys that blow my mind, they just have put in the thousands upon thousands of hours to get every motion of their musicianship so precise that they just slay it every time. You're like, that guy can't make a mistake. But I was thinking a little bit about, the business going on yesterday. I watched that intently. I took my older boys with me to the polls, and I let them see how I do the voting process so that they're familiar with it a little bit. I let them see how you go up there and use the little voting computers and do your business, and you read through each, candidate to see what's going on. You read through any of the resolutions that come up. I was particularly amused. I didn't see this until later. One of the bears posted, I think it was Schedule Bear, posted something riotously funny. And it probably makes more sense if you live in Missouri, and you deal with this. But let's see, it was, you know what? I'm just gonna pull it up because it'd be better to show it right off of Twitter. All right, so we're gonna get a window here. Just bear with me while I pull up my Twitter window. Some of you may already know what I'm referring to, but I retweeted it because it was just flipping hilarious. I was highly cracked up. I was amused. So maybe I'll just do it this way. This was a real thing on the Tweetar. So here we go. Okay, so I did that. Oh, by the way, in case you didn't see, we'll get to a couple of things that are in here that I found particularly amusing. I made some noise last night on a few posts because it was funny. Did I repost that one or not? I should have. Oh, okay, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. This is so hilarious. Okay, so the original, it's here. Okay, check this out. Here we go. Yeah. It's always fun to navigate getting window captures and stuff set up. No, I don't want to show the window shadow. All right. Twitter. Yeah, there we go. Good old OBS, always working with me. Okie doke. So, let's fade into that. There you go. So, schedule put out, it's time to put our differences aside and use state constitutional amendments to tackle the most important issues in this election. Bingo. In the constitutional amendment number 4, do you want to amend the Missouri Constitution to remove language limiting bingo game advertising that a court ruled unenforceable? And do you want to allow a member of a licensed organization conducting bingo games to participate in the management of bingo games after being a member of the organization for 6 months, or instead of the current 2 years that they have to wait before they can manage bingo games? So state and local governmental entities estimate no costs or savings from this proposal. High priority. Now, I have a buddy who said he did say go ahead for that. I thought this was my original thought about that. When I saw that, that's immediately what I thought about. So, and then of course, Schedule Bear responded with what I was also thinking about, but did not go look for the GIF on, because this episode of Roseanne immediately came to mind way back when I was a kid. She eats the crazy bingo people. But it was just fun. It was just hilarious. That was a good time. So a couple other Twitter fun things. My wife posted on Facebook that Chunk voted. I'm a big dog that just decided to. I didn't really. So I didn't really vote because I can't, but my mom and dad did. You should vote too. I don't want to tell you who to vote for, but any candidate who is pro-dog. So that's my not Hopper Crowder voice for Chunk is what that is. Yes, I had to post an article about that. Oh, Coddington Bear was live last night, and I had to say, Sweet Prince offering you some sweet pancakes there. And then, was it somebody, I had a post somewhere, and I responded to that. The back and forth on this was interesting. It's like, where's the blue wave? I'm like, it's all over Illinois, exactly. But nobody's shocked by it. Should have fought harder. Red wave next time. And then once I posted that GIF, I realized that I put a Native American gentleman, and I said, should have fought harder and red wave next time. That wasn't the intent to connect those things behind that originally. So if somebody gets upset about that, I actually don't care. If you want to be mad. Now that I see the connection, it's actually funny. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't see it, because I might not have posted it. I might have thought twice. But I was laughing. I was amused once I noticed it. So apparently some of you are as well. So that's a good thing. Yeah, it's funny. I was amused. So yeah, there's the bingo and the trolls, and there's Missouri for you. That's what kind of state is to my southwestern border. But hats off to them. You know, most of what I know about Missouri, aside from now that they put bingo things on their ballots, is let's see here. Well, they whenever I've driven through Missouri, good old I-44, I've driven around through that corridor numerous times, and every so many miles you see these gigantic signs for like adult superstores. If you don't understand what I'm talking about because you're too young to know about that, good for you. Keep it that way. Don't worry about that business. But if you drive through Missouri, you're going to notice very tall, gigantic signs letting you know as you go through the, miles and miles of forest or up and down giant big hills out there. Every so often, that's what you'll see out in the middle of nowhere. So I wondered for a long time, like, is that what a lot of people do? Is that just the thing? There's not much going on here. So, hey, adult superstores, you get the thing. Kikya has the blues too. Kikya's also feeling the pain. Well, way up in your northeastern neck of the woods, I wouldn't be surprised that that's what happens. Hope and pray that doesn't bear down too unpleasantly for you. America. It's shocking to me that Big Bear chose to move there. That's interesting. But, I mean, the family, it makes sense. Blues wave. Yeah, that's what's coming, Moomin. Hey, by the way, Moomin, I should put this out there. I haven't forgotten about or quit working on the piece that you sent me. I have this piece that Moomin sent me, and it has just been the nuttiest last few weeks, like the worst possible time for me to try to get any work done here in the studio area. I'm finally about to get my drum set put back together in here for the first time in I don't know how long. And then I've got to do something before Sunday because I have stuff to do Sunday. I have a church gig to play. So I'm going to get in here and I'm going to get some stuff recorded. But Moomin, I have not forgot. I'm going to work on that. And boy, I would love a chance to work on some blues thing with you as well. I'm going to put something out. I'm also in the process of working on knocking my computer around there. I'm working on a piece that that's going to be my own version of How They Rule You. I like to put one out there, and I like for it to be a 4-part harmony, you know, not like barbershop quartet per se, but something melodic, you know, in the spirit of Queen a little bit, but something interesting. Yeah, I'm going to play with that, see if I add any instrumental parts to it, but it'd be cool to see a different style to the tune put out there a little bit. I did see Honky's new song. In fact, I think I tweeted about it, Liberty Snake, the Faith Over. If you haven't seen Honky's new tune, Faith Over, that he posted the other day, as soon as that came out, I was grabbing a hold of that and posting that to Twitter, so check that out. Maddie R., what did you say? At some point, would you mind leading us in a prayer that God gives me favor with an employer today? Absolutely, guys. Hey, if anybody is down, you can join me. You're not compelled to, but that's a great idea. I didn't see your comment from before. Almighty Father, I know that Maddie R. has got he's got a need to engage with an employer today. I don't know the details about that, but you do. And I pray that you would let him have a clear understanding of what to say and do in that situation. That if there's anything that he ought not to do, that you'd help him know what that is. Because most of the time when we have issues, we create our own. But help him focus on what things he can be doing and instill him with confidence that you have the entire world in your hands, regardless of what things are going on. So no matter what happens, that he can just go in there and be focused on how he can be of best service in the situation, ultimately to you, but also to that employer. We would praise you and thank you for the guidance that you do give, the continual communication that you never stop giving. Whether we're aware of it or not, it's constantly going on, and we would also pray that you'd open our eyes to see that, to be much more aware of what you're doing every moment. We thank you and we praise your name, in the name of Jesus, Yeshua, our Lord and Savior. Amen. You know, I should do that more often here. I think that's a good idea. And thank you, Kika, for suggesting it. Yeah, I'm glad we could speak to your situation, Maddie. Yeah, my beautiful lady bear is also going for an interview today for something. So she and I were praying about that earlier, that she would have good presence of mind in the midst of that. You know, that's a great thought, Liberty Snake. I have thought about that more and more, and I think that may be coming. I think that may be a thing I might start doing. I have talked about faith quite a lot on this show. I've talked about biblical matters quite a lot, and I probably will continue to. I didn't start out saying this is going to be like a Christian show, but it doesn't necessarily need to be just because I might open it in prayer. I think it's an important thing to do. And hey, Andrew J., glad you could pop in for a little bit. Yeah, I think that might be worthwhile for all of us. A good way to get our minds set for the day. Whether you're into it or not, that's cool. You're welcome to join in for those of you that want to. You know, so thanks to those that are suggesting, that are having interest. You're the suggester. I missed what you said before, Kodiak. Yeah, absolutely, Maddie. I'm glad to. Glad to lead that. Just going back over the comments to see what I missed. Because Kodiak said something. Just saying, I'm the suggester. What was before that? Yeah. Oh, I thought that was Kick It. My bad. I thought Kick It had said something. Maybe I was mistaken there. Yeah, totally. It's Kick You had a comment right above yours. And that's why I think I got him switched there. Kodiak. I didn't mean to call Kodiak Kick You. At any rate. So, yeah. You are always putting in your 2 cents, Kick You. It's a good day. It really is a good day. My life doesn't necessarily change, but I do think I have a sense of vigilance, like a call to it almost, that there's been for quite a long time this stalemate stuff going on in our state government, and I'm more mindful of it. I'm aware of it, I think, more than I had been in past. So I'm going to be ever more watchful to see what kind of things come down the pipe. I feel horrible for Dom when he's saying, like, there's a guy who's advocating the allowance of Sharia to be permitted within the state of Minnesota. That sounds like a very, very bad time. And if Minnesota starts becoming at all like Great Britain in the way things have worked out there, that would also be not good. I'd hope to not see that happen. I don't want the state of Minnesota to be like the city of London. But we'll keep that in prayer as well. I think that's an important thing. So I'm going to be ever watchful. I realized there were a couple of folks that I wasn't aware of, running for certain offices, and there's more about the breakdown of government that I'm not as familiar with as I went through it. Enough that I could make good decisions. Like, I even went through and I just said, if there's certain candidates that don't even have anybody running against them, and they're just Democrat, I just chose not to cast a vote, and to contribute to. Could there be Democrats that are good-natured people and are going to go outside of party lines in the way that they conduct their business? That's entirely possible, but I don't think near as likely as I would have said that was 5 to 10 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago, I would have thought there would have been Democrats who would have been willing to do that more often than not. These days, I don't know. And I don't know that I've seen evidence of it. Were I to see evidence of it, great. Then I'd be all for it. But I don't know. There's too many official positions of the DNC that I'm at complete odds with. So, yeah. I just I'm going to be paying more attention. I'm realizing the necessity for me to know more than I do about the civic process within my state, and to know what I need to do, especially now that I'm trying to move into entrepreneurialism more so over the last few years. For a person like me, I struggle at it. It's not an easy thing to do because organization is not my strong suit whatsoever. As some of you may have noticed over the last few weeks, I'm still trying to get my basement organized here, the studio room. It's not moved that much forward. You can't see much of the rest of it, but it's not terrible. It's just little by little. In fact, let's take a little look. We'll go this way. And over this way was the corner. I'm going to knock the mic. Over that way was the corner where I used to be set up, and I had things over there in that area. And now I mostly have some other things set there, and I have some other shelves with books and instruments and things. And now I have this main bookshelf that was on the upstairs that's set down here for me to have as backdrop. The other side of the room with the stuff for my kids when they come by, games and other things like that. That's gotten a lot more organized. That shelf is still a little haphazard, but you can't see from over here because I'm not going to take the whole computer over that way. But there's a whole area beyond that workbench table where they have a game center over there and can do stuff. So there has been a lot of organization that I've gotten. I've been cleaning my room better than I had in past, but there's still more stuff to get done. You know, and I've certainly been out of the house quite a bit in the last couple weeks. But the vision of what this needs to be is taking more shape too. There's more here that's been happening as to how I want to do this so that it can best serve what I want to get done here. And the more organization that I apply to my own life, the more I can get stuff done. And the more I can get stuff done, the more successful my family and I can be, the more things we have available to do. That looks like a Steve Pinder. You know, as soon as a Steve Pinder shows up in my stream, one of the things I've thought about is this mug of his that I have. Some of you may be familiar with the Steve Pinder ugly mug. It's actually upstairs. I just finished my coffee and I had it in the sink because I was washing it out. I was going to bring it down. But I was noticing, you know, when I drank my coffee, there was a change in the taste to it when I put it in the Pinder's ugly mug. I intend to. Peoria Dogs, Beautiful Lady Bear. That's a wise choice. My beautiful lady is, of course, in here, and I'm always grateful for that. And that's a good point. That's something we should do. And there's more I want to talk on that subject. But yes, the Pinder's ugly mug, which is a fine beverage vessel. I was drinking from it the other day, and I thought it would be worthwhile to go ahead and take a sample of what I was drinking. And I took a sample of that same substance, but from a different mug, and then compared it with the sample I'd taken once it had been in the Pinder's ugly mug. And what I noticed is that it seemed the molecular structure of the beverage was now aligning in the shape of a Star of David. And that gave me pause, but only on Saturday. I really, really wanted to do that joke. It's such a dad joke, but it was so funny. I was waiting to do that. I think I threw that out in Owen's stream yesterday. It was fun. Yeah, so make sure to get yourself an ugly mug, because not only will they turn the molecular structure of your beverage Jewish, but you'll feel better about how you look. You'll feel compelled to dwell in the upper levels of your home more often. And you might even be compelled to write in a diary like a young girl. So all of those things considered, keep the Pinder's ugly mug in mind. Might not be a bad plan. All right. Let's see. Let's see. I have a pic of the Star of David in the froth head milk. Oh, the froth of the milk in your mug. The froth. I gotcha. In the froth, you put a Star of David. That's funny. I couldn't read suddenly. The word frothed was giving me trouble. I was saying froth head. What? Yeah. It's all this blue wave. It's just hit me. This Illinois blue wave. But let's hear for Texas. Texas has got the cruise. That cruise ship is sailing. It's good stuff. That's a good thing. Yeah, it was interesting. I kind of figured that the house would be taken, you know, and I didn't see the final results. I think there were still about, the last I looked at the results, there were still about 23 seats that had not been officially that had not been filled, but it was at like 219 to 190 something, 193. So obviously there's going to be a blue majority in the House, but in the Senate, Republicans took a few more seats. So that's a good thing. There's a gain there. But I think it's good. I think it can be good. You know, it's just going to be a good political process. Hopefully that that eases some of the tensions throughout the country. Maybe some of the insanity will go down. I don't expect that it will. I mean, that's Petersonian logic, right? But you see where I'm going. Yeah. Subpoenas forthcoming. I didn't see what you said, kick you. You know what sucks? Yeah, you were less than pleased there, kick you. I understand the mindset of the independents because I think I tend to be that way myself. I was fairly compelled to go. With, I can't even say, with Cash Jackson, who was running for governor. I was compelled to go that route, but at this point, I couldn't justify doing that. When I voted in the 2016 elections, I did go libertarian, but there was a group that had started up called balancedrebellion.com, and their whole shtick was to get you linked up with someone who would normally vote the opposite party from you, and then if you both voted Johnson, then you would equally take away votes from both sides. So no side would get an advantage over you voting third party. And I thought, that's genius. That's a great way to do that. Now, how do you verify any of that? Could it be, a bunch of malarkey that's actually going to happen, or that they ever would have normally voted that? It is based on honor system. So could Dems have messed with that? Probably. And it would be better if there was a nicer verification for all of that kind of thing. But I thought, boy, if something like that could really be engaged properly, then third parties could actually have a chance. They could actually do something worthwhile. And they're right now just in that mindset of getting to that 5%. But, I think they're doing some of the same things that I saw here in Illinois. I saw ad after ad after ad on regular television channels, of which we only have a couple, that we get in our area. The signal from our antenna can't get much, and we don't usually watch a ton. But saw ad after ad after ad for that on there, and on other channels that we have that feed in commercials. Like there's Roku channels that you can watch from time to time that will feed in commercials, and they'll put local commercials on it, stuff specific to your area. But then on YouTube, I would constantly get Pritzker ads, tons of JB Pritzker ads. And that guy put in several millions to get that going, which, fine, do your thing. That's how you campaign. I don't no hate on that at all. But I saw one Rauner ad in the entire time. Just one. And that was disappointing, because the Rauner ad was extremely substantive, right? Like, he went through all the things that he'd been accomplishing since he took office. And a lot of people say he's done nothing. Like, well, no, there have been things that have been done, but there's a lot of things that we really wanted done in this state that didn't happen. And there are things that did happen that I wasn't pleased with. Don't get me wrong. I was not happy. And there's probably more than I knew about that also had gone on or that had been voted for that I wasn't going to be happy with either. No, not adult superstore ads. That's Missouri. Sergeant Peterson. Let's see here. So, yeah, I was just wondering to myself, it's like, is there just like a conceding to it going blue in this state? Is like, why is there not more of a fight? I don't understand. And then I thought, maybe I have to look at myself. Do I need to become just more informed and organize better and rally people? If I really believe in the libertarian thing, I want to see that take root. What could be done to better instill that in the minds of people and get them to know who these candidates are? What they stand for, why they would be a better choice, why it could be cool to vote for third party, and why that you could do that how you could do that in such a way as to not push the votes up for the party you would normally oppose even more so. But yeah, information seemed to be the thing that for me was still lacking. Like, I understood a degree of what I needed to make some informed votes, but I realized I could always know more. Like, I still felt like I was underinformed. And that's good. If I felt like I was underinformed, then that's a good thing. If I feel like, oh no, I know just enough, then I'm not going to seek out more information. But I definitely felt like I needed to dig in more deeply and know more about the next election coming around. That it's important to do, and then to try and reason through, why one position would be better over another. And right now it's kind of easier because the Democratic platform versus the Republican is pretty clearly laid out in a lot of ways. It's not so much about the people, but the principles. But you want to look into what principles certain people hold to, and you can't do that unless you understand the arguments well enough. So you need to dig in and figure out where different people stand. And I think it's things like voting records that help you get a sense of that. And there's plenty of resources out there that help you get a clear understanding of a particular person's record in voting to break that down. So time needs to be spent to understand that better. Let's see, Kodiak, what were you saying? Here for Congress, there was one running as Libertarian Conservative. It was actually from the left and just pulling votes from the right. Huh. Recognizing ignorance, but always attempt. Well, yeah, I mean, you'll have some of the libertarian-minded folks who are you're waiting for some of the... I'm trying to remember what I was just about to say. The thought went away from me. There are some of the libertarian folks, kind of like Austin Peterson, who were more fiscally conservative. He was one of the guys running against Gary Johnson for the libertarian candidacy in 2016. And he was much more fiscally conservative, yet socially liberal in a lot of different ways. And there were a lot of social policies that he wanted that I totally disagreed with. The more I dug into Gary Johnson, which I wish I'd done before the election, the less I agreed with him on certain things. There were some things that gave me pause, but I felt like, okay, if I know we're someone and I disagree as a candidate, but there's enough things where we do agree that I think are more priority, then if there's some places where I disagree with them, can I trust their character? Is their character, as I see it, genuinely portrayed, or is it not genuinely portrayed? The better I can get a read on their character and see how they behave in different situations, the better I see of them, the more of that I see of them is the way I should phrase that, the more I can say, well, if they're a person of character that I warrant to be, or that I reason to be of a higher degree, then I think I could be willing to see that person in office, even if I disagree with them, because at least I could believe them. I feel like I could trust them. And, can't necessarily trust someone you've never met, but you make the best choice that you can with that situation. That's kind of what I think I'm getting at. If I could trust their character, then I'd be willing to have someone that I disagreed with in a number of ways in office, because I'd still fight them on certain things. I'd still stand up and say, no, I think you're wrong on this issue and we should go the opposite direction. We shouldn't do that. But if I didn't trust them, then I couldn't know, it'd be like I'd have to fight them on everything. Like, I don't know what you're going to do with this thing or that thing. Even if it's something that looks like it's good, I'm wondering, is that really good now? Is that really the way we ought to go on that? But if I think they're going to try to be straight up with the people and say, this is the details on this issue, then I could say, well, at least they're being honest about where they stand. And if I know where they stand, then I can either take a stance with them or against them, right, on that issue. So I'd want to vote for candidates that I feel I could do that with as much as is possible. But in order to do that, I have to do my diligence. I have to be more informed. It's kind of like what I talked about yesterday. You have to have responsibility added to your plate, which it's already there. It's already our responsibility. But then we have to have the humility to say, well, even if I disagree with them on certain things, if I'm willing to factor in their character into the situation and deal with that largely, then I think even if I disagree, we could work with that person as our representative or as a, the governmental servant. Let's see. Kodiak said something. I have a premiere later today. Green Supremacy with Field of Bears. Nice. That's funny. That's funny. That's cool. I'm gonna have to watch that if at all possible. That should be tonight around 8, I believe. 8 p.m. Central Time. Of course, for him, it's 6 Pacific Time. Does Patreon support give control of wrenches? David's calling you Kit Kat. That's funny. That should be the gold tier. Hey, Yukon. Well, no, we're not done yet. You're in here in plenty of time. We're still talking. I'm just talking about the blues of the blue wave in Illinois. But the positivity of some of the redness that has still taken the Senate, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So let's see here. What other good stuff is there to discuss today? 12 p.m. Pacific. So 2. It's a clip of Field. Oh, you're releasing a clip of Field. Gotcha. Now, I thought you were saying it was an interview. I misunderstood. That will be cool. I'll have to see that. I think it'll be a good deal. Let's see here. Word of the day, gridlock. So funny. Let's see here. I was working on Sunday in the studio with my good friend Brett, and we were going over one of the songs that he wrote that is going to be really amazing when it's finished. I'm looking forward to oh, hang on. Got to take that one. There's a 5K for human trafficking awareness in Phoenix. Way cool. In December there. Liberty has more details. Just getting the word out in case any bears will be in town that day. Well, that's flipping cool. Shoot, I'd do that. Except I can't go to Phoenix anytime soon. Oh, Barry Happy, what's the cost for lessons with me? I'll be glad to answer that, Barry. Glad you're here, by the way. Let's see here. I do $22 for the half hour, and I do $40 for the hour, but that's my normal rate. Talk to me about bear discounts, because I do bear discounts. I'm kind of cool like that. Merrick, somebody you know named Merrick, who would be a good candidate for lessons with BDB, huh? Well, I sure try. What's the instrument you're interested in there, Barry? Bear discounts are good. Does he want to learn guitar? Or does he want to learn some drums? Because I do that as well. The drums is my main, but of course I can pretend to play guitar every so often. Yeah. Email me at steadyintime@gmail.com. steadyintime@gmail.com if you're interested in lessons. Oh, very cool. Well, I'm glad Merrick's listening. That's awesome, Barry. You know, with all the students I take up, I always look forward to days when I can do lessons with new people. But I also look forward to opportunities, especially if they're like online students. If there's ever a chance where I might get up in your area and you can do like a face-to-face lesson too, because there's some other quality to face-to-face lessons that I think is very, very desirable. But there's so much you can do with the online these days, and the better I can get my signal to be, the clearer the images can be and the clearer the sound is, so we can really dig into the nitty-gritty of music. You know, and eventually one of my hopes is that I can have such good connection between myself and maybe a handful of bears, we could play with each other online in real time. If it's possible to get the lowest possible latency in connection where it's almost instantaneous, there's no lag, and we could play in real time, that would be awesome. I don't know how possible that is, but it would be cool if it were. Or to set latency up in such a way where we all sound like we're together. I don't know what would be possible there, but it'd be cool. On a journey's cracking me up there. Let's see. I didn't see what was just said there. I missed it. Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool. We have to run to the DM. Oh, cool. Well, enjoy that. Very cool. Thanks, Barry. Happy for considering. Look forward to hearing from you. So let's see what else now. Wow, group FaceTime for 16 people. That's legit right there. The Google Hangouts is also pretty useful. Yeah, sometimes I got to go off there. You get those playing faces. They get pretty silly. They get pretty ridiculous. And apparently I do this when I play drums too. You know what I got to do is find this DVD and share it with you guys. There's a bit in there from when I was, oh, you're going to love this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to track this sucker down. I'm going to make a video file copy of it. This DVD I've got from when I was 17, and I was playing with a band of guys that I met at Illinois Central College. We met in the cafeteria. We had some mutual friends that were in choir, you know, and they said, you guys should form a band. You play guitar, not me, one of the other guys, and you sing, and then Aaron, you do the drums. You guys should go out there and have a band. And we're like, okay. So we went right out there. I didn't have any drums, but I went into the student store and asked if they had any coffee cans. So I had coffee can bongos, and the three of us sat down and we played music together. We were thinking, what are we going to play? And somebody's like, I don't know, just make something up. I don't know, what about? We were thinking, I don't know, just sing a song about cats and dogs. So we said, okay. 4 seconds later, we started playing, and we had a chord progression, you know, come from the guitar, and I put some percussion with it, and we started playing a song called Cats on the Moon. And it was like this war between the cats that were on the moon and dogs that came to destroy them. I don't know. It's just stream of consciousness, weird, bizarre stuff that our singer would come up with based on some random topic. Not all of it was stuff we're proud of, but it was a fun time. It really made us think on our feet. And we ended up getting on a local morning show in Peoria. So we did a little gig there. I might have to find an old clip of that and share it just for the heck of it, because it's amusing to see my faces when I drum. But yeah, you'll go back to the days when BDB had his hippie long hair down to here, back in the ponytail. It was a different time, very different time. Easily, goodness, that was about 18 years ago now, 17 or 18 years ago. It's been maybe more. I don't know. Well, it's working on 19. I think I don't do math well at this hour. So I think I was 17 already by that point. Yeah, it was the year 2000. So I think I had just become Yeah, January of 2000. BDB had long headbanger metal hair is what it was. Though I wasn't into headbanger metal per se, other than say like Dream Theater. But I was actually jamming out with some other friends of mine when I was a little younger, and this one dude that was a guitarist would come over to my house sometimes, and he would like headbang while he was playing guitar, and I'm like, I want to be able to do that. I want like the hair to drop over my face. I thought it'd be cool, so I grew my lion's mane. You know, I grew this bizarre looking mess of hair that I had. I've always thought it would be cool to try that out again whenever I got out of the military, but I don't know. It'll be Michael Boltony because this is, you can clearly see there's not a lot of sod on the fairway here. It's slipping away. Like the sands in the hourglass, so are the hairs on my head. Let's see here. Yeah, I've seen your long hair pictures, Steve. That's funny, man. That's hilarious. Glam rock hair, that's what that is. I was glamroo. I was British Iraqi, gay, and Muslim and non-binary. No, I wasn't. Not at all. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know how hilarious that is. If you don't know, feel free to search Paul Joseph Watson's YouTube videos over the last couple weeks. You'll find something amusing, something unique. That's where that was. I could go here. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to find things. Yeah. That's the little line I wanted. So, sometimes I practice in front of others. Oh, you're good, Uru. Glad you could come. Yeah, we're just chatting about how Illinois went all blue. It didn't really change, not that much. We had some losses, but what I was thinking about actually earlier was, and I put a tweet about this too. As soon as I saw the election results last night, I said I want to pray for Governor-elect Pritzker, and I want to hope and pray that he does a good job as a governor. I want him to do well. I want him to do what is good. I want him to be a just leader for the state, as well as all the other candidates that have been elected, whatever their affiliation. I want them to do their job well and justly for the whole state. So, yeah, I bet, Uru. I have no doubt. Wouldn't shock me. But yeah, I wanted to keep them in prayer. Because I thought about this. Glenn Beck spoke about this around the 2016 election. I remember listening to this. He was not a fan of Trump, and he talked a lot about Trump's much more far left past in a lot of ways, things he'd supported that were very progressive, and not, and we say progressive in quotes, but wasn't a fan of Trump at all, and had railed against him, pretty openly, trying to just out, his things that he'd supported in past. And the day after the election, I remember having caught some of that show, some of Beck's show, in the car, and he said, everything that we have said up to this point about Donald Trump, we are going to we're gonna let it go in the past. We're gonna say, all right, hey, we're gonna wipe the slate clean in terms of our judgments. We want you to do well. We're gonna pray that you do well as a leader. We're gonna set all those judgments aside and just go based upon how we move from here on out. So, I was moved by that. I thought that was a big deal. And I thought, boy, I need to have that kind of attitude about it as well. Unless I know that the person has a lot of sordid past. Well, even if I know the person has a lot of sordid past, but if it comes down to like they have been caught up in some really despicable, horrific things, and they haven't made any moves to say that they were wrong about that, or be held accountable in some way, then yeah, I would have some trouble there. I mean, I would still, I guess, pray for their soul, but I would not want that person to be in office. Like say if it was Ted Kennedy, right, and he was in office, I would have some problems there. I'd have some serious problems if he was like in a gubernatorial or presidential position. So, what things that are known, like factually, about that individual? Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, those I would have no problem standing up strong and saying, nope, this person doesn't belong in political office. And if you don't know the history of that, if you haven't seen what Big Bear's talked about on that, definitely dig into that a little bit, because it's pretty horrendous. It's pretty intensely horrendous. In fact, he mentioned some of the Spielberg stuff that I think it was yesterday and previous times, and I hadn't really looked it up. The Heather O'Rourke, who was the little girl from the Poltergeist films, and the circumstances surrounding her death. And I read like the Associated Press like report on that from the 88, I think it was, when she passed. And yeah, that was really bizarre. That was really weird. She had some sort of bowel obstructive issue, which you would normally know about when they're born if it was a birth defect, but there's been no indication her entire life until suddenly one day she thinks she has the flu, and a couple days later she's gone. I don't buy it. I definitely think that something disgusting went on in Hollywood and affected that young lady. Her being one among many. But yeah, that's a whole dark rabbit hole that I don't want to spend a lot of time on here at all. I think I'm more sensitive to that kind of thing as of late. Like I think Owens dives into some of that have definitely made me open my eyes a little bit more to that kind of thing and be like, there are people that out there that want your kids in the worst possible way. And I was talking earlier about, I'm sure bowel obstructions can happen at random or reversal edge, no doubt. Yeah, for sure. That's totally possible. And if that's all that was, I hope so. But it's really difficult for me to not think that there's horrendous stuff going on in Hollywood to happen to kids like that. Hope and pray that's not the case. Yeah, exactly, Kick, yeah. Exactly, not usually with healthy children. Can it? Yeah, at random. It's totally possible. Sorry, dog hair. Goodness. I heard the Crohn's disease thing. I didn't know if that was a consistent thing or not. That could be the case. I'd have to dig into that more to find out. But yeah, I'll have to look up what you said. That's quite possible. I just hope that, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if abuse of kids within the Hollywood sphere is as widespread as some people claim. It wouldn't shock me if that's the case. I can't prove a lot of that, and I don't think Owen can prove a lot of that, but I think he's very passionate about that, and I get why. And I think I'm more passionate about it a little lately too. Maybe not in the same degree as Owen, but it's something that I've thought about a lot more often, that like there is that desire for destruction of innocence and amongst some people. Really disturbs me. It's an issue to me. Oh, jeez, Pinder. So yeah, I'm fairly convicted that is the case, Steve. You know, I don't doubt at all. But it's something that I think has happened historically. That's why I'm hot to trot about some of that. It's like, it's not a new thing. in ancient Greece, it was kind of like a rite of passage. You know, it was kind of a thing that went on. Like the older dudes would do that. And there was this concept that I know it hasn't been talked about as much in this stream or others that I've heard, but there was this concept that was prevalent in ancient Greece. This idea of the demiurge, the vicious, like, this is the way that the Bible was perceived by a lot of people from a Greco-Roman background, that the Old Testament God was a God of the blood God, the jealous God, the God that had more human-like characteristics in some ways and was, connected with a lot of our human urges and things like that. And so the mindset they got in was like the demiurge, that is how we manifest ourselves here in earth, right? While we're on this earth, we have these horrible lusts and desires and things. We admit they're evil, but we need to get them out now. This is the time to excise all of that stuff, just to live it out. Let that evil out of us, the demiurge stuff. Get it out of our systems while we're here on earth. Just live in debaucherous ways how we have to and still carry on our life, whatever way we're going to do that. And then there was the... I can't think of the term for it now. It's not coming to my mind. But the other side of that, the positive side, it's like the spiritual side. When you move on from this plane, you'll be set free from all of those desires and things, and you don't live it out anymore. You get it out of your system so that you're free to live it properly on the far side. And they perceive like the New Testament of the Bible in that way, that's like the more spiritualized side. There were a lot of early church fathers like Origen, Polycarp, Justin Martyr, John Chrysostom, also known as the Golden Mouth, right? Who have a lot of their writings are studied within seminaries, right? It's what people that go to be pastors often study a lot of the time is writings of early church fathers, at least as I've been, as it's been shared with me from people who've gone through that kind of training. That a lot of focus is spent in a lot of their writings, but in studying the Bible as well. It does happen, but this does take up a good portion of that. So this kind of thinking I'm talking about with the Old Testament being thought of as like the demiurge blood God, and then the New Testament, being Jesus and the spiritualized, purer kind of side that we're moving toward, shedding ourselves of that old self, that this was the perception that was kind of brought in the minds of some of these early church fathers, and that they began to allegorize lots of portions of the Bible, that they were saying, well, let's take it less literally, in lots of senses. And maybe this is just a spiritual concept here, and that the spiritual concept is the more weighty. The literal is just for earth time, it's just for down here. It's just what we would have to, it's kind of like the old way, the primitive way of thinking about it. And now we're moving on to the more spiritual truth there. And that was not previously the view held by the Hebrew Christians, those that first became believers in Christ in the early centuries. This was, it was that both are true at the same time, right? You have to have a physical manifestation of a truth, and then the spiritual comes after, because the spiritual references the physical thing in order to make the spiritual reference. Like if a dove, for example, is a type and shadow, or whatever you would call it, of the Holy Spirit, you would have to have a physical dove in order for that to make any sense, right? You can't use a dove as a type of something if there's no physical dove to deal with in the first place. Hey, what's up, Mofo Nature Bear? Good to see you. So there was this pull because of the thinking, the framework of thinking in ancient Greece, to move away from the physical side of it as being too literal, right? And we want to use that as an allegory. And so that had taken over a lot of the thinking of the early church fathers, to such points that they actually got into the mindset that Jews, that Hebrews in general, remember that all Jews are Hebrews, but not all Hebrews are Jews, right? They're not all Jews are Israel. Not all Israel is Jews. Excuse me. All Jews are Israel, but not all Israel is Jews. Not all that call themselves Jews are Jews as well. Just keep that in mind. But how was I trying to? I'm losing my train of thought here. So, excuse me. they began to say that the Jews had abandoned their Messiah and they had lost the promises that God had given to them, and they were no good anymore. They should be wiped out. They're basically on par with Satan. This is actual speech from the early church fathers, actual connections that they were making, and this influenced a lot of different Christian denominations over a long period of time. If you want more on that, there's an episode further back. I'll have to see if I've still got the link for it somewhere, but I have this. There's a Bible study lesson that someone put together years ago. It was called History of the Church. What is it? Faith on the Rocks. I think it was. I can't remember the exact title, but it was Faith on a Rock. Faith Built on a Rock, or Faith on the Rocks, I think is how it was put. It was kind of like a dual title sort of thing. And it was trying to look at the history of anti-Semitism within Christendom, you know, how it had happened or how it had gone about historically. And there's some, I mean, you think the Holocaust was bad, and it was. There were some things that preceded it that were also horrific, you know, on smaller scales, but horrific things that happened to Jewish communities in times past. And a lot of it was fueled by this idea that when we allegorize the scriptures, we don't take all the things literally. And of course you don't. There's over 200 different types of figures of speech used in the Bible. Chuck Missler had a great book that talked about a lot of these different types of things. It enumerated the various different types of figures of speech. It's where I learned about a concept of a stenectochy. That was one of my favorite ones, like using the general to mean the specific or the specific to mean the general. As an example, if someone was to say, they've got a nice set of wheels, you know, it's like they mean the car. That's a stenectochy. It's a figure of speech. Or if they say the sun rises, you know, obviously the sun doesn't rise, right? But it's a stenectochy. It's to suggest that the sun rises. We all know it doesn't actually rise, you know, unless of course you're a flat earther. Maybe there's something else going on there. And if so, no hate towards you. I haven't dug deep enough in that rabbit hole to make heads or tails. So I'm basing what I say off of what I know. Could I be wrong? Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's still a globe. And I think the Hebrew tells us that. Stenectochy. Yes, it does sound like the place in Massachusetts. You're right. I thought that for a long time. Stenectochy, and the other one is stenectochy. But a stenectochy is the figure of speech thing. And so there's a number of occasions of that type of thing in the scriptures, some that are pretty dramatic, pretty intense. But that doesn't bar there being literal things happening at the same time. Like Adam and Eve, I think, are literal people that were there. You know, the idea of Christ being the last Adam doesn't mean he was like literally Adam again at the end. But yes, that's a figure of speech going on there. So there's usage of that to make a point more vivid. Yeah, Urusledge was just saying racism, and in particular anti-Semitism in people that claim to be Christian, blows my mind. You would have to ignore pretty much the entirety of the New Testament. Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. So, oh yes, Honky Bear, thank you. I read that comment. You're right. Yeah, 30. That's nice to have in here. Well, thanks 30 people for watching. I always appreciate that. So what am I getting at? What's the grander point here by bringing all this stuff up? There was a pull for a long time to get into these allegorical meanings of things and to leave the literal stuff behind, and somehow that was considered virtuous. And a lot of that was based around this idea that we have to get this crud that's in us just out by living it out. And this was this mindset that it inhabited ancient Greece amongst a lot of different people, and how the idea that older men having relationships with young adolescent boys or younger is a good thing. Like how someone could see that that's a necessary thing. They can say it's evil and yet still do it and think they're okay folk. Like we have to be evil here so that we can be better in the next place to move on. Like, my contention is that that has not changed in the minds of a lot of people. There are a lot of people that might be in positions of power that have looked at history and said, well, this is what people in past did, and they maintained their power pretty well. You know, they did okay. So this isn't a bad thing for us to do. We gotta just live it out. My wife and I had watched some of that series Vikings over the last few years, and there's a point at which they are dealing with some of the political powers in what was then, you know, England. It was broken up into 4 kingdoms. Let's see here. I think Wessex, Northumbria. I can't think of the other 2. But it was split up into different places. So the Vikings, you know, come to that place and they're pillaging and things, and they have more and more interaction with England overall, what we know as England. And trying to think now. So this one character, King Egbert, is in there, and he's a devious cat, because all throughout this series, some spoiler here, not too much, not too specific, but he gets involved with the wife of his son, you know, on occasion to try and other people that are not his spouse, to rid himself of his fleshly, earthly desires. He just says, I got to just do it to get it out. I just got to do my thing, right? Instead of saying, no, I have to keep fighting to abstain, keep fighting to get away, right, from that type of thing. But this comes from that ancient view that you have to live out the evils in yourself in order to be a whole, complete person and be successful and do what you're going to do. And so it's not a shock to me if this thinking is still alive and well, especially in places like Hollywood. It wouldn't shock me in the least. And if that is the case, which it seems likely to me to be, then yeah, I'm much more watchful and on guard for people that might be like that in my life, which I don't expect to meet a ton of, but you never know. You just don't know, because they're insatiable and they're probably not going to stop where they're at. They're going to eventually have to expand. A desert, for example, doesn't just stay in one area. There's a process called desertification where deserts grow. The prevailing wind patterns will begin to cause land on the outskirts of a desert to push outward. And so deserts grow over time to be bigger. So something inside of someone that lays waste to them, it's clearly not good, right? It's corruptive, but that has to spread. That's what corruption does. So I keep my eyes open. I hope they're open enough. But all that said, we got leaders out there, people that are in positions of leadership, and that's not a place that's easy to be. Be empathetic toward that. There are people that are in leadership. If you don't agree with the platform they stand on, which I definitely don't in a lot of cases, pray for those people. Lift them up. You know, if that's what you do, which I hope you do, and if you don't, hey, I still love you. Dig into it. It's a worthwhile thing to check out, that whole praying thing. To whom? That's a question you're going to have to wrestle with. I would say the God of the Bible, and that's my perspective, and because I think it's true. I happen to believe that pretty strongly. But you're going to have to dig in, and you're going to need relationship, I think, with the Creator. If we're heading for times where we need to be more vigilant. And I think you need to pray for that you need to pray for that same guidance to be at the heart of those who are in leadership, because what they do affects us. So I'll end here with a bit of a thought of prayer. If you guys want to join in, great. If not, that's cool. Almighty Father, we've got people that are in positions of leadership now. Some that we're in agreement with, some we're not. And I'm sure even the ones that we think we are in agreement with, we're probably not in all things, regardless of who they are or what platform they stand on. Guide their hearts, guide their minds. to do what's just. Put it in their hearts and minds that there is an objective moral standard and that they should be seeking that out with fervence, with diligence. They should rule rightly, justly, and that you give them strength of character to resist influences that might draw them different ways, because I'm sure people in positions of leadership get pulled a million directions. Heck, I'm just a man trying to live life and take care of his family, and I'm pulled in a bunch of different directions all the time. So I can't even imagine what someone in their position must feel like. Help us to have humility and empathy toward those people, toward our leaders. And help us have the responsibility to be informed and to see how we can be of service to helping them do their job justly. Pray for all the bears, near and far. And lift up their hearts to be encouraged, to be filled with creativity and the ability to execute on that creativity. Put a desire in us to see the beauty that you've built into this world and to communicate it so that it lifts up the hearts of all those around us, bear or otherwise. Help us to seek out being complete and to help others to be complete where we're able. I thank you for those opportunities. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Pray that that keeps going. Thank you, and you praise you. We pray these things in the name of your Son, Yeshua, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Bears, I love you guys. I'm so grateful that people popped in here. It's absolutely a joy to get to do this little show thing here and to watch it grow, to watch people be emboldened. I'm going to go do a day. I'm going to go walk some dogs for my beautiful lady and get some other stuff done and spend a good night with some of my kiddos, because that's what dads should do. It's a good thing. Pour into them. Embolden them. In the meantime, you know what to do. But you know I'm going to say it anyway because I love to. Engage your mind. Engage your body. Engage your heart. And seek to serve the ultimate purpose. Peace, Bears. Love you guys. Give me a line. Somebody give me a line. What do we got the blues about? What do we got the blues about? Come on. What do we got the blues about? Come on. Andrew J. lives in New York. He's got a googly-eyed rep named Octavio. Octavio. Octavio is blue. It's nothing new for New York. I gotta get out of here. The blue wave's coming on. My crappy job is the only thing going on. I really should go, 'cause what I should sing I just don't know. Owen's on now. It's time for me to get out. I can't play the guitar. I should write a blues song. You'd think about the blue trickle. Might be a worthwhile deal. Could be fun. Go watch Owen's stream. He's on now. He's fun. I'll check my email account in about 5 minutes there, Roy Bear. Love you, Bears. You guys are cracking me up.